segment. All right, folks, I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. At this time, I want to discuss for a couple minutes House Speaker David Ralston, legislative leave, and everything swirling around it right now. And I want to take a couple minutes to do that. I have not made comments on this. First of all, I will not defend a politician. Absolutely will not defend a politician. You have the pictures that we're going to. Thanks, Lonnie. Okay. I will not defend a politician. I know what you're saying. Well, what do you do on a daily basis where the president's concerned? I have one exception. I'll look in the camera. I defend my president, Donald J. Trump, on a daily basis from all the media attacks. But other politicians, I want to be clear. Now, several of you are probably going to be upset with some of the things I say, but I ask you to hear me out. So what I'm waiting for is to hear what Speaker David Ralston plans to do in this situation where legislative leave has come into play that has moved out so many cases, okay, so many of the cases from his law practice that some multiple years and not in court. First of all, I think he has to move these cases. Just absolutely has to, okay? But there's a lot left in the reporting that's not discussed. And this is where I hope you'll stay with me, okay? Now, first of all, when Eric Erickson gets on board. Now, I want to remind you out there, Eric Erickson does not like our president, okay? Remember the Red State Convention or whatever, the big thing he held, and he disinvited. Remember, I want to remind you who this Eric Erickson is that's getting so much play over his attack on the Speaker of the House of Georgia, David Ralston. This is the guy that did not invite your President of the United States. This is the guy that did not want his children around your President of the United States. This guy disinvited the Donald, badmouthed the Donald, was a never Trumper. I'm saying that. I don't know if he ever actually said that. And I'm saying this, I'm not for sure. I don't think Eric Erickson voted for Donald Trump. I'm not for sure. I don't think he did. And just recently, he has come out and said he is going to vote for Donald Trump this time. So let's remember who this guy is, okay? Second, he's gone after the Speaker of the House multiple times, all right? And he does not like the Speaker. So Eric Erickson leaves a little bit out of his reporting. WSB, they have done these stories over and over. All of the media have done these stories. These stories on the Speaker of the House and legislative leave have been done for several years, okay? But all of those reports leave a couple things out, okay? The AJC, the newspapers in other states, okay? They reported this, but there's a lot of things they leave out. Now, one, legislative leave. These representatives, senators and representatives, are 2-year terms. Many of these representatives are attorneys. So they're not going to end their law practice. Now, they hope to keep getting reelected. They hope to keep getting reelected. Obviously, they don't have term limits, and if they can get reelected for 10 terms in a row and they serve 20 years, they'll They'll do it, most of them. But they're not guaranteed to get reelected. Realistically, 2 years from now, they may have to go home and work in their law practice. They can't end their law practice. They can't say, I'm not going to take any more cases. Because for the most part, that is still the majority of their income is their law practice if they're attorneys. So they're not going to end their law practice, and they're not going to do that. And there's an old law on the books which allows legislative leave. If they're doing business on behalf of their elected position, if their elected position causes them to have to do business, anything to do with the legislature down there in Atlanta, they can claim legislative leave. Basically, judges just are pretty much okay. I mean, I'm not going to say there's no pushback. I'm not going to say sometimes a judge doesn't say to one of the legislators, hey, we got to get this case off the books. But pretty much across the state of Georgia, there's very little pushback. There's no special consideration given to David Ralston, the Speaker of the House, on legislative leave when it comes to judges. It's not out there, and that's not in the reporting, okay? Second, district attorneys and other attorneys tied to the case have no recourse, meaning they can't say, no, drag the speaker in here. They can't do that. They can't do that. No, they cannot. As long as when the judge says, when they get their letter that is, there's legislative leave or notice, nothing they can do. So all of the reporting has to be clear. First of all, my opinion is the Speaker of the House gets no more of a pass when it comes to the judges of the Appalachian Judicial Circuit or other circuits he practiced in than any other attorney across the state with legislative leave, period. Now, that is one thing that they will not tell you in the reporting. Second, they won't tell you, okay, how many cases. I want to ask you a question. Now, the media claims that, the speaker has abused his position, all right? And that's up to you to decide. I'm not taking your decision away this morning. I just want to bring some more things into play. The media claims that the speaker has used his position, okay, and has abused his position to keep these cases on the books. I would like to know how many that's doing these investigations have looked to see how many cases in the state of Georgia that are on the books, 5 years old, 7 years old, 10, or more. That there's no representatives in Atlanta, attorney representatives in Atlanta, that are tied to the case. Did they do any reporting on how many rape cases, how many child molestation cases, whatever they may be, across the state of Georgia that are still on the books 5, 7, 10 years that have not been moved off the court calendar, that have nothing to do with David Ralston or any of the other legislatures? No, they did not compare that number. They did not come and say, Speaker Ralston has used legislative leave, and these are my numbers. I'm not looking them up. I don't have a computer in front of me. Speaker Ralston has used legislative leave 55 times, and in this particular case, 8 times, in this particular case, 7. Okay. Do they follow the story up by saying, but we find in the state of Georgia there's so many cases, a number of cases that are 5, 7. Look that up. You'll be amazed at how many cases in the state of Georgia are 5, 7, 10 years. They shouldn't be. That's another issue in itself, the backlog in Georgia. But no, they don't bring that up. They don't talk about it. Now, do they bring up what it's like to do a court calendar in a rural judicial district? Now, I, for one, have sat in the courtroom, actually here recently, okay, with a murder case going on, more than I have in the past several years, but I have sat in the courtroom multiple times on cases. Do they bring up, when they discuss this, that if there's a case in Gilmer County and it's court week, how many of these attorneys, now Gilmer County has several attorneys, Pickens County has several attorneys, Fannin County has several attorneys, and these are all places that the Speaker has cases. But the majority of the attorneys, when it's court date, are from out of town. I mean, if you go to any one of these rural courthouses on court day, and the tags, and you just look at the counties of where all these attorneys have to come from, because the people in North Georgia, you know, there's so many cases. There's people. Is it Clarksville or Clarkston or wherever? I was at a case this week where the attorney traveled from Clarksville. I mean, Athens. They travel all over to do these cases. There's so many times when an attorney stands up and says, Your Honor, you know, we just got a message, and you know, attorney so-and-so is held up in a case in Cobb County and cannot get out of there. We're hoping to reschedule for this afternoon if you have time on your calendar. No, they don't talk about any of that. Nothing of what it's like. They don't talk about how many cases throughout the day in the rural circuits trying to get attorneys that are representing people from all over the place to get a court calendar that works for a case. Nobody talks about that. It's very tough. Now, my opinion is, I'm going to throw out 4,000. Now, I don't know, but I'm going to say the Appalachian Judicial District has 4,000 cases. It never stops. They have three judges. Now, the reason I keep bringing up the Appalachian Judicial District, this is where the Speaker of the House lives. This is where his practice is in Fannin County. I know he has court cases in other judicial districts. But no, none of the news reporting takes any time to look at a court calendar in a rural judicial district. Now, I, for one, am not bringing up any shortcoming by the judges in their calendars. I watch these cases, not particularly the ones we're talking about with Ralston, but I watch a lot of these cases. And I see their court calendars, and they're stacked. So I'm not saying these judges are not trying to push these cases through their courts, but they're limited to what they can do. And the first time an attorney has to reschedule something, and then you listen, just come and listen one day. These guys know in these networks that do these stories. These guys know. Now, they're all going to come back on his abuse of the power. That's their claim. But they know what it's like. Now, there's even a move. Now, my question is here, okay? He's the representative of the 7th District of Georgia. There's a list out there that just don't like the guy, okay? There's a list that just does not like the guy. Why did this story break? Now, they've done it for years, but why did this story break after he was elected Speaker of the House? Why? Why not break this story before he was elected almost unanimously as Speaker, with the exception of one? Why didn't the story break before that? Why didn't the WSB, why didn't the AJC, why didn't the other papers, why didn't Erickson, why didn't they run this? You got to think is what this is all about, okay? Because they continue, the media continues to make you think that they're so concerned about justice, and they are so concerned, and their hearts are bleeding for these cases and the people involved in these cases. Now, I will tell you this. The people involved in these cases, hey, my heart goes out to you. I think they need off the books, and I think they need tried. But don't get confused that the media is doing something for you. Hey, you may be the recipient of getting your cases off the books and get them heard and getting into court. But don't think it for 1 minute it's because the media likes you and cares for you and their heart goes out to you. Okay? Because if it did, why didn't they run this story? Why didn't they run this story when he was running for office 7 months ago? Why not? Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they run this story after he got reelected and he became Speaker of the House before the vote? Why didn't they blow up the media? Will Republicans? That was their chance. That was their chance to put pressure on the other Republicans down in Atlanta to say, don't vote for this guy as Speaker of the House. But they didn't. So don't think it's because they care about, these cases. They're doing this, and it's a timing reason why they're doing this. Oh, absolutely. It's a timing reason. Now, there's also a call right now for all the GOP, local GOP offices or county GOP committees to do a resolution to remove him. They want a resolution at the state GOP convention that says, we think that the Speaker of the House should be removed. But my question is to you, what is the real reason behind this? Who is pushing this story? Why is it now? Now, I want to go before, I told you in the beginning, I will not carry a politician's water. I will not. I mean, I know the Speaker of the House. I'm here in the district. I see him at so many different functions. I know the things as far as the district, the 7th District of Georgia, that the Speaker has been instrumental in of doing here, okay, in this district. But, Mr. Speaker, I will tell you this. These cases need cleared. These cases need tried. And they need off the court calendar. They need off. They need done and finished. So whatever you can do to wrap these cases up and move them along, I think it should be done. So as I said, I'm not going to carry any politician's water, and I'm not going to take up for somebody, and I'm not going to make an accusation on the legislative leave and the abuse of it. But I will say this. These cases have gone on way too long. All right? They need off, Mr. Speaker. They need tried and done and finished and wrapped up. The Appalachian Judicial District and whatever district you have cases in, they need cleaned up. That's my opinion. But on the other side of this, for the people that are upset, don't forget who Eric Erickson is. He's the guy that did not support your president. Okay? These are people that sensationalize things for their own personal gain. Okay? That's the bottom line, their own personal gain. Also, question the time. They know. Okay? Speaker David Ralston's not going to talk about these cases. He's not going to. He can't. He can't come out and talk about these cases. He's limited in what he can say. He cannot even come out, and I don't know that he has, and say anything on these cases, and the media knows that. The media knows he can't do that. And the media will not show you the other side of rural court calendars and how many cases across the state are 5, 7, 10 years that have nothing to do with House Speaker David Ralston. No, they will not. But they will end their reporting, and they have been ending their reporting. He's not broken any laws. He hasn't broken the law. You may not like it, but he's not broken the law. So you take judicial districts that may have 4,000 cases in backlog with attorneys that have to travel halfway across the state to try a lot of these cases that they're involved in, and you sit one day. I invite the guy, I forget his name, I didn't write it down. I invite the guy that has done. Here's what I'd like: Eric Erickson, the AJC, Eric Erickson, and the guy, is it Tony Thomas or whoever it is from WSB? I would invite you to do two things. Come up here and sit through, okay, a court calendar day with judges and attorneys trying to set a court calendar. Do one of those. Two, just take a district, a rural judicial district, and look up how many cases, or do it across the state, that are 5, 7, or 12, 10, 12 years old, let's stay with 5 or 7, that have nothing to do with the legislator at all right, in the state, and then broaden your report to backlogs in the state of Georgia, case backlogs in the state of Georgia that are not getting moved at all based on how many cases they are, and maybe not enough judges. I don't know what the answer is. But why don't you widen that? Because particularly the timing. Why didn't you push this story when he was running for office? Why didn't you push this story and get everybody and all the Republicans on the bandwagon to vote no for him for Speaker? Why did this story get legs and turn up about three or 4 weeks after session started? Why? Because it's a setup. It's a setup, and it's being done on purpose, and somebody's driving this. I'd like to know. And the only thing I want to tell the victims out there in the cases that you're waiting to go for trial all these years, I hope you get in court very soon, and that is sincere. But please don't think for 1 minute that the media cares about you. They're using you to try to achieve all the things they want, to try to get this guy out as Speaker of the House. Hey, I didn't try to change your opinion this morning. I'm just telling you, watch everything that's being done, and don't accept everything at face value that the media is giving you. Bottom line. Okay? So that's all I have on that. I'm going to take a break. Now, you give me comments. I don't care. You know, I probably got a lot of people out there that are upset with me that I didn't do an Eric Erickson and I didn't do an attack, and I'm not going to do an attack. It's just not going to happen. I'm just looking at the other side of what is really going on in this story that nobody talks about. Okay? That's all I'm looking at. Come up here and look at a court calendar. See how many that are not legislators have to change the dates. You know, I don't really share these kind of things, but I told somebody the other day, years ago, and I'll just share this with you. A lot of people don't understand, and I say this in all due respect, they don't understand how the court system works. Most people do not understand the court system and how it works, and sorry to put it that way. But years ago, when I was about 10 years old, my dad had a very big case. He's not an attorney, but he was involved in a very big case with a manufacturer, a lawsuit. We'll leave it at that. And he come home, and I knew he was going to court that day because I could overhear him telling my mom some stuff. And he come home, and I said, "Dad, how did it go in court today?" He said, "Son, you're going to learn one day that 2 attorneys come in, and they spend half a day," as I just remembered, never forget, 2 attorneys come in, and they spend half a day figuring out on their calendar. Now, this is I'm 10, just to say this is a couple years back. 2 attorneys come in, and they spend half the day on their calendar figuring out when they can come back again to court, and that they're not ready to go to court that day. And that takes half a day, and then the judge okays it, and then they go to lunch together, the 2 attorneys. So there you go. Anyhow, I'm your host, BKP. Send me a note, 706-889-9700. Tell me what you think. Do you think the Speaker has abused his legislative leave? Do you think the Speaker has done something to the point that you feel he should be removed from, not office, from his position as Speaker? Do you feel there's some things out there that nobody's talking about? And, you know, the way, you know, I'm kindly putting it together. I'm just trying to make you think the whole thing out. Don't get caught up when the media gets a hold of something and takes it, especially with an Eric Erickson involved, don't get caught up in it. Be careful. Watch it. We are seeing all kinds of news stories these days that should take just a minute to get all the facts in. I'm your host, BKP. We'll be back right after these messages.